Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Eccentric Mind Podcast with George Hernandez. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. If you're new, feel free to like and subscribe so that way you could get notified for every single podcast that we do here. It's going to be every single Monday at 5:30 Pacific Standard Time. Be there or be square. And then if you are on Spotify, feel free to give us a follow and 5 stars so that other people are notified about the podcast itself, so that way they can get these tips to improve upon their endeavors. Now, today we have the topic of how to genuinely be loved both online and offline. I've been deeply curious about human psychology for close to 3 years now. No, over 3 years now. And I've learned about, intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation, how our brain functions, primal tribes. What else? The body language, how we speak, just the whole 9 yards, right? And it's something I'm still trying to get better at, but I've noticed a lot of shifts in my life where I'm able to create and craft good, deep, genuine connections just by showing up every day and doing the same thing that I normally do. But also, I created and built an online business for 18 months and built a community online as well, where I was able to gather 2,300 people, right? And who genuinely cared about me. And it's because of all these principles that I kind of carried out with. Now, if I understand, you're probably thinking only 2,370, but because, we're in such a TikTok era or Instagram era where all the reels that you see online have, thousands and millions of views or thousands of followers. It seems like people are getting millions of followers in 30 days now. But honestly, if you put 2,300 people in your home right now, how many people is that? Exactly. So it's a good amount of people. I'm not trying to brag, but just kind of painting the picture a little bit. Now, I'm going to start with online first because it's relatively fresh in my mind. So let's go with that. So to be genuinely loved online comes from categories of 3 specific topics, or it's 3 specific things. It comes through with your content on what you're providing, what kind of value you're giving, but then also your conversations as well. Okay. And then number 3 would be your profile. So one thing that I was thinking about on my walk today was cortisol goes up the more we go about our day, right? So it tends to increase the more throughout our day. So that way we have much more inspiration and motivation to carry on with the things that we're doing, right? So during the afternoon, though, all that high cortisol tends to drop down to I would say a balanced level, if not a little bit lesser than that. So we're much more enabled and open to do things that soothe us or allows us to feel connected. And it's why so many people, right after their 9-to-5 job, they tend to click Netflix as soon as they get home. And it's usually something that they're familiar with. I know my brothers tend to watch The Office or How I Met Your Mother, right? Or a friend of mine tends to watch the same movie over and over again, right? It's something that they're familiar with, right? So because it comforts them, they know exactly what to expect. They resonate and relate with the characters. They know the characters very well, and it almost feels like the characters know them so well because it's how they're reflected upon the screen. So we're much more open to doing that. So if you start understanding just this itself, that other people want this deep feeling of connectedness, then that's how you're able to craft your content around that specific thing. Understanding that all people want, we have this deep urge to feel belonged and connected, but we also want community as well. So understanding that with your tweets, your content, your reels, your YouTube videos should be under the impression of allowing people to come in, showing them the fun that you're having and allowing them to feel the same gust of wind that you provide. And so with the specific content you post, you need to be vulnerable, and you essentially build your tribe with the content. That shows, so you really want to show them, your vulnerability. A lot of people tend to stay away from being vulnerable because they think it takes away opportunity. If anything, it never dismisses opportunity. It only creates it. So be vulnerable, right? You always want to be vulnerable. Where am I at? You show them why you wake up in the morning. Every single body in your brain, I learned this from Simon Sinek. It's when we start from why, we're operating from a sense in our brain. I don't know if it's the limbic brain or I forget what part of the brain it is. But when we operate from why, we get to do things that we wanted to do in the first place. But if we operate from how or what, we're operating from the limbic system or the limbic part of our brain. We operate from how and what. We don't tend to get those things accomplished. Right? Because we don't have a deep sense of why we do the things we do. So if you tend to put out vulnerability, why you do the things you do, why you wake up in the morning to take the action that you want to take, but then also sharing your goals, sharing your transformations, sharing your stories. Why? Because it gets people to feel like they connect with you. Why do people go out in the afternoon to go and watch a movie? Well, they want to relate. And they want to resonate with the characters. They want some sort of reflection about their life seen in the movie. Why do you think my friends and my brothers tend to watch the same movies? It's because they relate to the characters. They resonate with the characters. And it's like this deep understanding and this deep belonging that we have. So you need to express yourself in a vulnerable position. Online people love stories. They love to be impacted and feel something. The best writers understand how and what their audience is going through at the moment, and you need to convey with your writing, your reels, your content in a way that expresses the way you speak in a powerful light, but also in a way that's friendly and really flashes your personality through the screen. So I like to think of most of the things that I like to think of is sharing your hobbies, because it captures a sense of you that not many people see themselves, but then also other people may just have that hobby as well. So if you like to play pickleball, if you like to go dodgeballing, if you like to run, if you like to lift weights, show yourself lifting weights. Talk about how much you enjoy lifting weights, because other people you're going to attract other people who are also doing the same thing. Share your hobby, share your interests. During my time, I expressed how much I loved videography and even shared videos that I created. And throughout just that, I was able to attract like-minded individuals who were doing the same things that I were doing and shared that love of videography as well. And that's where you hop onto calls. That's where you dabble, right? So that's your content, but also your DMs. So your conversations, whether it be your DMs, your emails, whatever it may be, phone calls. You want to carry out that person that you had in your content, and then you want to share that over as well. You want to bring that version of you, that authenticity, that connection, that deep level of resonation. You want to bring that character or that person. Obviously, you want to be in an authentic presence. You want to be yourself. You want to bring that person over from the content, so you have your authority and you have your authenticity with you, and you take that over to the conversations. And you pretty much are that way when you speak to those people as well. And then third is just your profile. You want to be seen as like this winning, high status, high integrity sort of character, and that's pretty much the basis of how to be genuinely loved online. I'll definitely go into deeper detail about it some other time, but I really want to go about the offline, because something about offline. I love offline. So when it comes to offline now, essentially, if you're entrepreneurship minded or manager, supervisor, you already understand that the most important aspect is people. The people run all of your ideas, and you need to understand what motivates them, what gets them to be productive, and how they move, both intrinsically, extrinsically, so you can reach your desired outcome with your business or hit your tasks for the weeks and get them done in an efficient manner, done in your needs. So you need to fully understand that people drive the lever. They are your number one. So overall, to make friends and meet people who are genuinely interested in you and genuinely love you, all stems from your ability to listen. Okay? So I like to see it as a way of, you don't need to overassert yourself in conversations at all. I used to think that I needed to fill up the gaps in my conversations. I used to think if there was any sort of dead silence, I needed to fill it up with something, right? But sometimes I've had conversations where I don't speak a fucking word. All I ask is a deep question. All I ask is something, right? I ask something to get the wheels running. And eventually 15 minutes later, I haven't said a word, but the other person on the other side is thinking, what a great conversation. And it's because most people don't get the opportunity to be listened to or even get the chance to speak themselves. And I love that. It's like we are essentially giving them our ears, right? So that they can fully express themselves in the way they've been wanting to. Not only that, like I said, you need to be a very good listener, but you also need to respect yourself as well, because not everyone needs to be listened to. There's people who complain. There's people who talk bad about other people. There's people who gossip, right? Talk about the worst things that are going to happen, and that you don't need. You don't need to listen to any of that junk. So understand who and what to listen to, so that way you don't harm yourself along the way, right? So you just need to understand who and what not to listen to. But also understand that a lot of people do have these things to say. I like to see it as sometimes I will listen to people who are complaining, but sometimes these people just need to let that out so that way they can start taking action. So you just need to understand and kind of like through your own discretion on that part. It's really dependent on your own discretion. Now, to be needed and being loved. Why is it so important, and why am I talking about it? The reason why is because it opens up so many new opportunities for success, but to also meet new people, and it's so powerful. So there was one part. I got a job a while back ago in January 2023. I was there for 2 months. For the first 2 months, everyone wanted me to become supervisor. Everyone was talking about me. Everyone genuinely liked me, and it only came from me doing very, very little things. And by month 6, when there's people who were working there for 8 years, 10 years, 5 years, who had that sort of, what is that word? Had that sort of, dang, I can't find the word, but they've been there for a long time. They had already been there for a very long time, and you would expect, because they've been there for so long, that they would eventually get promoted. But I was the one being looked at by being promoted because of my ability to be loved by so many people. So it opens up so many opportunities for you, right? And they're built in plethora of ways. I wrote here, you're not going to be loved by everyone. Oh, this is true. Because I think the people that are doing the best are people that they have people who genuinely love them for who they are, but then they also have people who fucking hate their guts. I think that's the perfect sort of individual. I wouldn't say perfect in that light, but they're doing something right. If you have somebody who hates you, but then also genuinely loves every single thing that you do and everything about you, then you're doing something right. But understand that you're not going to be loved by everyone. You're going to fuck up. You're going to make dumb mistakes. You're going to make bad decisions, right? So you need to accept that for what it is now. At the interpersonal level of belonging, one needs at least one person who empathizes, accepts, and offer that sense of respect, love, and caring for one who is, despite their flaws, history, or mistakes. Honestly, human psychology hasn't changed. People need they need to feel a sense of belonging, and it's argued that a sense of belonging may be even more important than having an intimate relationship. So our need for social interactions is as fundamental as our need for proper nutrition and adequate sleep. There was this time, I've been isolated for a very long time. I had my period where I was just completely isolated post-breakup so that I can really focus on myself. But I still had a job, and I was still operating in a sense of just overall societal levels, right? So I was still working, I was still going to the gym, I was still walking, whatever, doing all my things. But I've had moments now, I've had 13 months where I was jobless and I had nothing, and I was just working on my business, or I was working on my body, right? So I've had a full year of my life away from society with no relationships, simply grinding on something that I was passionate about. Each time I did, I lost a sense of my soul and my purpose. I had nobody to connect to. I was seeing the same people every day, my parents, and having the same conversation with them every single day. It was fucking hell, right? And I hated it. I wanted it to... There was just no purpose. It was like I woke up every single day doing the same thing, and I was like, what is my sense of self here? What am I going to do here? Like, what is my purpose here on this planet Earth? And it just goes to show just how deeply important your connections and relationships are. And I talk about that is because researchers have shown that the human mind has a primary and almost universal desire to form and keep relationships with others. During that time of isolation, I was getting my work done. I was working out, I was building a business, but I felt more cut off from the world. And my deepest desire wasn't for my brand to succeed or have the craziest physique. It was simply someone to share the things that I was doing, because it was just so unique and so different in comparison to what everybody else was doing. I was essentially wounded and needed to share myself with others. And I like what Carl Rogers says here. He says, in 1961, psychologist Carl Rogers observed this simple truth. Humans have unconditional positive regard to thrive. Rogers further identified the interpersonal experience of being understood as critical to healing. So we all have this unconditional regard to thrive. We all want to be successful. We all want to do this. We all want to make the money. We all want to build a brand, build a body, whatever it is. But the interpersonal experience of being understood as a critical to healing. Yeah, so we all have that. We all have that regard to thrive, but we also have this need to be understood so that way we can heal ourselves. So healing, as critical as healing, simply by being understood, right? So I like to think about conversations. Like the other day, I had a conversation with a friend, and I had been going through something, and I was talking about it a little bit, and I remember just feeling this sense of like pressure off of my shoulders once and for all. Like it was gone, and I was just like, I felt good, you know? And it's like, how many people get to have that? And it's true, like not many people get to have that sort of weight off of their shoulders after a simple conversation. So it is healing. So it's like that all over the world too. People have these topics that they want to talk about, things that they're doing, but they're isolated and have nobody to share it with. All because the need to belong. The drive to belong is a deeply embedded facet of our uniquely human state, which makes us aware of our mortality. Belonging reflects a sense of meaning. One of our biggest fears in life is the fear of isolation. The worst thing that could happen back in the day during the tribal era was to be banished. But it's no wonder why meaninglessness, a sense of invisibility or not existing, is such a threat, which may form the very foundations of not belonging. So by making room for others to belong, we end up belonging as well. So, like I said, I've been obsessed with human psychology for over 3 years now. And I just really want to show people how they can simply improve upon their conversations and actually build meaningful and genuine connections and to genuinely be loved by others. Now, I learned this in a book recently called Surrounded by Idiots. But essentially what I tend to do all the time is I speak the way I speak, okay? And the way I speak, I use big ass words. I essentially speak French to other people, and they don't understand me. I sound too clever, and what I've noticed is that if I'm in a big crowd of people and I'm speaking the way I'm speaking with my big ass verbiage and all this, one person may or may not, no, one person out of that group that I'm speaking to probably won't understand the thing I'm saying. And I've learned that they can internalize that as I'm feeling dumb or I'm less than or whatever it may be. And the whole point of human connection and human relationships is not to have somebody feel less than and feel sorry about themselves. The point of human connection and genuinely being loved isn't ever about making someone feel bad. It's It's to make them feel important. That is it. That's it. 100% it's importance. All they want is to feel important. And one of the greatest books I've ever read, How to Win Friends and Influence People, showed me this. And plenty of other stuff. This book is fantastic. Go out and read it. It's that humans crave a feeling of importance far more than anything in this world. It's all we want. It's literally all we want. Because the only reason we maneuver on this planet is to create something worthwhile, right? Like he said, we want to thrive. We have this unconditional desire to thrive. But at the same time, we are doing and we want to thrive because we want to be remembered. We want people to remember us when we die. But how about we just remember people when they're alive, right? And the only way to do this is by genuinely being interested in them and giving them a sense of importance as well. So 99% of the way you make them feel important is by showing you remember them. You remember what they say. You remember them as a whole. Because guess what? The people who you do remember, the people you remember what they say and remember them, and you make them feel important, that's why they will love you. It's because you showed them someone else cares about them and shows genuine interest in them. Carl Rogers said, we have an unconditional positive regard to thrive. We all want to be successful and important. Now, if I told you, there I used it again, right? So now imagine this, right? You're at work and I'm having a bad day. I'm having a shit day. And I come into your job and I see you're mopping and I fall down and I slip, right? And I get up and I tell you you're fucking terrible at your job. Because why are you even mopping when I'm walking here, right? I tell you you're terrible and that you suck and that you should be fired. Probably going to feel like crap, right? Let's say I come in now and I see you're mopping and I just go around and I tell you, hey, thank you for cleaning that spot. You're doing a great job. I bet it was a little bit dirty, but now it looks sparkling clean. Like, great work, right? How are you going to feel about that? Probably a little bit more confident, a little bit more motivated to do better work, right? So the point I'm trying to make here is that the things that cause us to feel pain are the things that are evolutionary recognized as threats to our survival. So the takeaway here, what I'm trying to say is, people don't give a fuck about what you say. They give a fuck about how you make them feel. If you can make them feel important without being inauthentic or trying to make them feel overtly important, then you're on the right track. So how do we do it? How can we make somebody feel important? So first off, I want you to say this with me. I will not use these tricks in a harmful or vigilant manner. Everything used here is to add to the world and never to get anything in return. Okay? This is real talk, okay? Being serious. Like, these are very important and very powerful tactics, right? But it's so crucial. And only use these if you have a goal to add to the world, right? And not get any sort of thing out of return, because that's just fucking whack. Okay, I'm under the belief that how you act, you attract. And if you give without any sort of expectation of receiving in return, then those things are going to come back to you twofold. But I don't do it to get the twofold. I just do it because I genuinely want to fucking do it. And that's exactly how it is with human connection. And that's how I feel with human connection. So understand that how you act, you attract. So in psychology, they call it enabling. So if I consistently treat, let's say George over here, let's say I constantly treat George like shit and an asshole, then guess what? Because he's treated like an asshole, and because I see him in this view, he's going to start treating me in the same way. And then I'll turn around and wonder, well, why are there so many assholes in the world, right? Well, guess what? If there's so many people, if there's so many assholes in the world, you're the asshole, right? So how you act, you attract. I can't express this enough. So everything you say and do eventually comes back to you. So be optimistic, show love, and give without any sort of expectation of receiving in return. Okay? And watch the love blossom your way. Now, what do I do? Well, remember when I said, we're expressing a genuine interest and we want them to feel important, right? So first off, most important part is improve yourself. Mark Manson says it's less about the acts themselves. It's more so how you are as an individual. None of this will work if you're not a respectful or genuinely interested individual. So begin showing deep love for yourself. I can't express this enough that I know a lot of people who feel like they offer nothing. They can't give anything to the world. And it's because they haven't provided themselves anything, right? They sit around, they work the same job that they hate, they play video games all day, whatever it is, right? So people that genuinely don't like themselves, they can't give to anybody else because they're coming from an empty cup. But if you decide to fill your own cup and you decide to actually show yourself some love, you are compassionate with yourself, you start doing things that make you feel better and provide you a stronger, more reinforced self-esteem, then you can come from a place where you're more charismatic, more confident, more motivated, and that way you can start giving that to other people as well. But not only that, people catch on quick. So if they see that you're doing something that makes you feel happier, more fulfilled, gives you more energy, other people are going to attract to that as well, and they're going to want to do the same thing. So because you decided to help yourself, because you decided to, I decided to help myself, and because I decided to do that, other people are going to latch onto me because I've decided to take that step and take an action upon that thing, right? So you're actually helping yourself, but then because you're helping yourself, other people notice that, and they start to help themselves too. So it becomes this big old circle, this big old group. So, number one, just fucking love yourself. Like, work on yourself. Stop doing the same thing, expecting different results. Just fucking work on something. One thing. Take it far. Take it wide. Okay? Now for the tactics. So, one of my biggest ones is smiling. I fucking love smiling. And it's cool. I can't tell you guys how many times people have come up to me and said, George, your smile made my day. Literally that. And it was only by expressing myself in a harmonious way, being authentically myself, and smiling at the thing that I genuinely wanted to smile at, it affected somebody else's day in a positive manner. So don't put yourself down for what you don't have. But understand that what you do have can make somebody else's day, even if it doesn't make your day. So your smile expresses a lot about yourself. Don't immediately give them your smile. Don't smile because it's the thing to do at that time. Smile because you genuinely want to smile. I would say I smile a lot, but I can understand that at work, sometimes I don't have that smile. And when I do smile, it's like, holy shit. It's like I'm glaring at the sun, right? It's because I made it a point to not smile as much. So when I do smile, it's almost as if it's rewarding in a sense. So smile, like show them you, okay? But don't overtly do it, and don't do it just for the sake of doing it. Do it because you genuinely want to do it. And that's the big thing here with all these tactics. Do the thing you want to do because you genuinely want to fucking do it. Don't do it because you feel the need to do it, okay? Or because it's societally understood, or it should be that way. Fuck that, okay? Just do it because you genuinely want to do it, okay? Now, this is probably the most important one. So I've talked about everybody wants a feeling of importance. I've talked about being interested in the individual. How do we do that? So be genuinely interested in them by listening and remember them, okay? Remember, at the end of the day, every single body has this unconditional desire to thrive, okay? So we all want to be great. We all want to die, and we all want to be remembered for when we die, okay? Now, honestly, a little tangent here. If you die, the people who are going to remember you are also going to die. So rather than wanting to work to be remembered for when you die, how about being remembered for when you're alive? And how can we use that to our advantage? Well, remembering them while they're alive. So remember, we want to remember them, and this helps if you're deeply curious or interested in another person. And the only way to do that is to shift your belief that you can learn anything from everyone. So drop your fucking ego. There's so many people who I've met that I didn't know I'd learned the things I'd learned from them. And it's all because I decided to drop my ego and stop making assumptions about this individual. Understand literally every fucking body. And that's why I like strangers so much. Is because Everyone has something going on in their life. Everyone has experienced something in their life. Everyone's done some dope shit in their life. And they all have a lesson to explain. They all have something to give you. So understand, if you are genuinely interested in them and you are actively listening to them, they will refuse to not speak of the things that they've learned in the past. I don't know if my camera died or... Anyways. Listen. That is literally it. Genuinely listen to the things that they have to say. If you can be genuinely interested in them by listening and remembering them, you're going to meet some dope ass people. Also, who are doing incredible things. Like, I can't tell you how many people I've met who lack the fundamental skill of listening. When all you need to do is, honestly, really just fucking listen. But there's so many people who think about what they're going to eat. Think about what time they're going to go to the gym. Think about this. Think about the next thing that they're going to say. Rather than actually listening to the person. So let them finish their thoughts. Because when you cut off someone in the middle of a sentence, it's extremely rude. Allow them to express themselves the way they mean to. And don't let anyone take away your attention. Be fully in the conversation. And if you can't do that, then you don't need to be in the conversation in the first place. Genuinely be interested in them. Remember, like, our largest urge and desire is a feeling of importance. They want to feel important. That's it. And as soon as I learned that, it all changed for me. And every single person you meet has something to teach you. So understand that each stranger is literally an opportunity to learn something from them. And that's the utter fact and truth. Remember, deeply, intently listen to them. Give them your ears. I talk again about listening. So, like, for real, like, stop thinking about what you're doing after this. If someone is giving you the time of day by talking to you, give them the attention they deserve, right? I've hopped on 500 plus calls online, and this really helps you to really hear a wide range of different people, different voices, different countries, and different personalities. The best possible thing you can offer someone is your ears. If you have nothing else to provide your ears. No better service than listening to an individual who has things to let off his chest when nobody's there to talk about it. Now, number 3, I think. Yeah, we're going to go with number 3, eye contact. So I'm big on eye contact because though we provide our ears, we also need to provide our ears, also need to provide our eyes when we are discussing and talking to somebody as well. And the thing I've regretted is continuously talking to people who can't keep eye contact or constantly move around while they're talking. I don't think you can listen to somebody without the need to. You can listen to somebody who doesn't have proper eye contact, but I've just realized that they don't really hear you or listen to you. Eye contact is the best way to actively show that you're listening to what the others have to say. And honestly, it's another way to show and prove your competence that you're able to actively engage in listening. But also it's a confidence thing. If you can carry eye contact with anybody, it just shows that you have high self-esteem, that you're confident in your own manner, right? It's just so fucking important, guys. This one's huge. Remembering their fucking names. This is big on listening. Like, if you can remember someone's name, you're in a whole different league, right? I learned this from How to Win Friends and Influence People, but everyone's favorite word in the dictionary is their name. When people have a picture, they look for themselves. If you were to look for your name, or if you were given a name book, you'd first look for your name, right? Everyone's favorite word is subconsciously their name. And the only way to capture someone's attention and show they're important is if you remember their name. And my opinion on this is if somebody doesn't remember your name from your first interaction, they don't give enough a fuck about you, or they didn't Yeah, they didn't care about the interaction because remembering someone's name is simply a petty sacrifice. So if they don't remember your name, they didn't care about the interaction enough. It's not that they suck with names, they just didn't care. Like I said, remembering someone's name is a petty sacrifice. All you have to do is say their name a few times or write it down somewhere. I can't tell you the amount. There was one lady I met at my old job. I worked at Ross. Viridiana, that was her name. Viri. So she used to be called Viri, but her full name is Viridiana. And I remember her telling me her nickname, which was Viri, and I was like, "Is that your full name?" And she's like, "No, it's Viridiana," right? And everyone around the facility, every single body she talked to, only called her Viri. They never called her Viridiana because they didn't remember the last part of it. They didn't remember the Idiana part. They only remembered Viri, and they never called her Viridiana because it was like a petty sacrifice that they weren't willing to take. So here I go, just going about my day, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, Viridiana." She paused. She literally stopped at her foot tracks and was like, "What did you call me?" And I was like, "Viridiana, your name, right? Like, that's your name, right?" And she said, "Yeah, but nobody ever calls me by my full name. Honestly, nobody even remembers my full name because they just know Viri." And I was like, "Oh, well, I know your name." And the reason why she was so flabbergasted is because we only had one single interaction. And that was because I was putting her name on a computer, Viridiana. That was it. All I did was put her name onto one simple, I think it was like a Google Doc, and I put it down. Boom. That was it. She left, and then I was able to remember her name the next day. So it's their names, bro. If you can remember their name, you have a small fraction, and you have stock of their heart. Okay. Now, number 4, I don't do this one as much, but I've noticed I've been doing it a lot more recently, and it's physical touch. Look, guys, don't be fucking weird, okay? I'm not talking about fucking, like, none of that shit, okay? No weird physical touch. Essentially, I like a good shoulder tap, or I like a good pat on the back, or I like a good, if it's a female, like a good touch on the arm, just something small, right? Nothing weird, or it's like also, I learned it's actually shown to reduce stress, release endorphins all across your body, and release the happy and well-being sensation, but also gives the other person a sense of attachment too, and like community and belonging. It's so powerful and an important tool to get others to touch you and you to touch others. And it's also why like all the dudes shake hands when they go into the gym. It's why bros go and like fist bump right at work. It's like they're providing themselves a more healthy and friendly physical environment. Okay, so do more physical touch. Okay, and it's the only time I'll actually do it is at the end of a conversation, so that way I could, if you end a conversation with a physical touch and you say, "I don't want to take too much of your time, have a great day," and you physical touch, that is the end of the conversation rather than having to be inside a conversation that is dead and lulling, right? So physical touch can be powerful in a sense of like actually building a stronger and deeper connection. I had the thought today, physical touch and deep connections is essentially sometimes you'll create a deep connection, but that deep connection will be covered, or it'll be, what is it called, wrapped up in like a rubber band, right? So it's not as deep, it's not as personal, it's not as connected, and at any given time it can be expanded and the rubber band can rip, and that way you won't have that connection anymore. But if you start applying physical touch, if you start remembering their names, then that rubber band becomes more reinforced, or it becomes another sort of band that unites and creates a much more powerful connection. Now, I've been talking a lot about how the fact that, physical connections, genuine connections on how to genuinely be loved creates opportunity and conversations for you. But I have a rule, and that's whenever I go to work, whenever I take my walks, whatever it may be, or whenever I go to the grocery store, I have a rule that nobody passes me without saying good morning or good afternoon. So I say good morning on my walks. I say afternoon to everyone at work. And it's easy. I look them straight in the eyes and yell it to them. 98% of the time, someone will share the excitement and yell it back to me as well. And why is this important? It's because it shows that I'm genuinely interested in them. And I never have a bad attitude upon telling someone good afternoon. It usually fills my cup too, in a way, because I'm genuinely excited to share that good afternoon. But also, it's so cool seeing people get, like, they rumble around in joy when someone tells them good morning or good afternoon, and like it gives them a smile too, because we're so wrapped up in this society where we're isolated. I think it was like 15 to 24-year-olds feel more lonely, like 27 more lonely than the average individual. And it's because we're so isolated. Though we have social media and we're more connected, quote unquote, we're so much more isolated and disconnected from the people around us. So I noticed that whenever I say good morning or good afternoon to anybody, people jumble up in joy, because no one says that shit anymore. It's completely off from the status quo, right? So I can't tell you the amount of people that will actually come up to me and tell me, hey, like, you're a genuinely kind young man, and I appreciate you for that. The good mornings are good. The good afternoons are good, right? And it just always shows that I'm genuinely interested in them. But it also, it kind of creates this persona around me on who I am, right? So it's like the law of repetition. If you consistently repeat and repeat and repeat, they'll eventually know you as the person who says good morning, the person that says good afternoon, that provides that good vibe, right? And if they're receptive to it, to your character and your spirit, it'll open up more doors for conversation, which eventually, if you create more conversation, that creates more opportunities for you as well. And it's all because I decided to make the first move and say 2 fucking words: good afternoon, good morning, and then progressively moving upwards on the ladder. So don't let anybody pass you without saying good morning or good afternoon. And this is how you can be genuinely loved. Well, this one was all over the place. I did write this one down. I'm still just trying to improve upon my podcast as well. Just trying to figure out the whole flow of it, so I can get a good, so I can really get down the things that come in my head. But also, I know I write a lot of good quotes and a lot of good things that are related to it. So sometimes I do read off of something that I've written myself, but then also I'll have a specific thought and I'll play with that thought as well. But it's so fascinating. I'm really enjoying this whole podcast phase that I'm in right now. And I've just created my system so that way I can be able to research topics that I genuinely love, but then also being able to express myself in a way that I want to, while also being able to... These dudes are loud. While also being able to talk about my own experiences and share my wisdom as well. So if you guys enjoyed, this has been the Eccentric Mind Podcast with George Hernandez, and I hope you have an amazing day.